BFM Breakfast Grill, connecting you to top people and ideas. Presented by U Mobile.
Good morning, I'm Sharad Kutin, and our guest on the Breakfast Grill today is Professor Kriengsak, Chareonwongsak, an academic and also a founder of the Institute of Future Studies for Development. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to begin with the question of where Thailand is today, and if you could help us understand Thailand post the 2014 military coup that established the present government of Thailand, now led by Prayut Chan-o-cha.
I think eventually we have to return to democracy as a norm that is found around the world. You can resist it for a moment, but not too long. But it has been quite long. It's on the fourth year now, and I suspect they will try to delay it as much as possible because of some internal combustion that has happened in the past. But whether it will be as scheduled, that's an issue of dispute.
There was a time in which Thailand, along with Indonesia and the Philippines, were seen as the kind of shining examples of democratic politics in the region. And then, of course, we had that coup. So some observers, at least, claimed that the coup was necessary in order to manage the transition because of the illness of the late king and also the succession issue. Could you just give us a sense of what was at stake in 2014?
During that time, there was such a division in the country between those who are on one side, may say clearly Thaksin side, basically.
The red shirts.
The red shirt, and then the opposite side, who are not in agreement with Thaksin. So it's pro and anti-Thaksin, basically. And because Thaksin was such a powerful figure that were able to really control the country for such a landscape of politics that changed, altered after Thaksin's era. And he was set in, if he did it right, to be in long term. And I think those who are on the other side were really fearful what to do. And therefore, when there were some weaknesses that found in his government, be it populist policy excessive, that could not be sustained in the long run, plus some alleged accusation of misusing of power for his own personal benefits or corruption among his peers, that give room for people to attack. And those who are unhappy were galvanizing among themselves to try to find a way to oppose him, and he came to the street because in the parliament they could not withstand Thaksin's force of sweeping all the entire political landscape. And therefore, they came to the street for protests, and there's a lot of violence going on, engineered as well as a natural one. Consequently, those who are in power were thinking what to do. You can't control both sides. The bargaining power was almost equal in terms of those who are opposing and pro-Thaksin. So the military stepped in conveniently in the name of trying to pacify the situation.
It was the 12th coup, I believe, that Thailand had experienced since the abolition of absolute monarchy in 1932. So coups were really part of the landscape, a kind of safety valve, if you like, for Thai society. Is that be true?
It has been so until many years ago. We thought it would be the past. And that's why it was a shining example of democracy in the Southeast Asia. But when a coup came some years back, maybe 25 years ago, that broke the record of thinking that coup is of the past. Then we have a long silence and gap for another, say, 14 years of total absence of coup. Then it returned one more time many years ago. Then this time. So we have 3 coups in the last maybe 25 years. And this one has been going on now on the 4th year.
Was there disenchantment with the democratic system of governance, considering that somebody as rich as Thaksin could come in, Thaksin Shinawatra, a billionaire businessman, could come and somehow use his wealth to shape the politics in a way that people would say is not very democratic?
Basically, there's democratic in form and democratic in reality. We always have democratic system in form for some years now, where people go into elections, go into the moment of campaigning, get elected. But behind the scene in Thailand, like many developing countries, the people who are in the rural, poor areas, they easily can be orchestrated into a system where you can almost control the votes by appealing to them for their needs. And those political masters who are expert in this could cater for them either through private help or public funding help when in policy. Consequently, politics in Thailand has always been how many hands can you get from the MPs to propel you into government. And you can almost predict in any constituency who are the winnable candidates. There's only one or two. And those one or two have to work very hard for a long time, over decades, to win the hearts of the people. By hook or by crooks, you help them legitimately, as well as you give them some oiling of the machinery in the election time by giving them some voter benefits. I'll give you some cash. And therefore, it has never been that clean in a way in Thai politics. It's rare that MPs got in without using money. And MPs have to invest. It's a huge amount beyond their salary. Even though their salary is on par almost with the Prime Minister, but it's still not enough. Therefore, you're under some control of some political boss that can control a number of MPs who can trade those hands with a minister post. And those ministers will be drawn into a coalition of some sort, in a faction of somewhere, in a political party. And if you can collect enough of these political masters with enough hands of the MPs behind, you can almost calculate mathematically before election that you'll be in government. And that's what Thaksin did. He was able to draw a lot of the MPs into his party, dissolving the old parties, become his party, and he able to finance them without having to go through another intermediaries. In fact, others would really want to buy a share in this. So many business tycoons who used to be behind the scene, financing everybody and give more to those who are winnable in that particular juncture of time. Now some of them come out and join his party officially and take the post of ministers themselves. So Thaksin create a new scene where business people who have huge amount of money do not just support behind the scene politics, but come forward as politicians and control the country. And it looks as if the return favor is substantial enough. When you have political power, you could ditch out all the concession, you can give favors, and therefore it worked out in a very well systematized way so that it looked like stability of his power. And those who are losing out and unable to fight back have to scheme out something to take him out. Because if you continue like that, it looked legitimate on paper, but in reality, it was really calculation that you could make sure that enough coalition of the benefits conjoined together to win. And those people have to appeal to the power like the military and say, hey, you are another factor that could really knock out the equation. Come in and help.
Okay, so come in and help is interesting because you've written a book, I believe, called Critiquing Thaksin's Policies. But now when you look at 3 years and coming into the fourth year, as you put it just now, of military rule, what do you think of their policies? Clearly, they have had to govern beyond the crisis moment.
I doubt that the military solution is a winning strategy. And I'm known for being outspoken as it is. I'm no fan of the way the coup has happened. Nor do I believe that a military regime could be a solution to Thailand in the longer run.
Did your party support the coup when it first happened?
To be honest, I was ex-party member now. I have resigned 10 years ago from Democrat Party because I started feeling disenchanted by all the political parties who are totally populist. It started with Thaksin as a populist party. And then my own party, my ex-party, the only party I belongs to for the whole entire life, follow suit and try to do populist policy too in a tamer version. And therefore, in a vote of protest, I resign and say, I don't agree with all this. It's going to damage the country in the long run. Therefore, my former party, in the beginning was not supporting of the coup, but there were some elements in the party that are influential enough were trying to draw the party into support, at least tacitly or unofficially, the coup. In fact, the head of the party, a young man, former prime minister now, Pisit, became prime minister, and the arrangement was made in the army barrack. And therefore, it was under that kind of atmosphere where the party was propelled into power with Pisit as prime minister when we did not win the majority. In fact, we were the second party in terms of numbers of MPs, but Pisit became prime minister with the help of the military, coercing willingly many other parties to work together with Pisit to govern the country and take away the power from Thaksin from the time of the election period. Then so the country is punctuated during post-Thaksin era. Thaksin became prime minister. It looks like he's going to be there for long term, but to take him out either by a coup or either by working in the landscape of politics so that all the other people join together to try to take the majority in the House. And that's what happened one time when Prime Minister Pisit became the Prime Minister, when he did not win the majority.
If you, as you said earlier, you hope that Thailand returns to genuine democracy, you'll still have the same political parties. You'll still have perhaps the tendency to push for populist politics as a way of garnering votes and legitimacy in terms of forming a government. What are the future options for Thais themselves post this military government?
I think the allowance of new kind of politics to come in would be a fortunate thing for the country, where good people generally who are fair, who are not going to use the old style, who win the hearts of the people, who have a chance to win the hearts of the people, form new political parties that could be formidable force, and let the people taste a good kind of politics, and then leave behind the old. That is the only chance in democratic election that would allow a change. Therefore, the good people need to be willing to sacrifice, join politics, be clean, and show the people that a better way is there. And can the people take that? And if the people taste it and like it, maybe there's a change. But before you allow them to taste, no one can believe that it's a good taste.
I'm speaking to Professor Kriengsak, Chareonwongsak, an academic as well as a former politician and founder of the Institute of Future Studies for Development. Next up, we speak about Thailand, both in regional as well as in an international context. Stay tuned. BFM 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile.
Good morning. If you just joined us, I'm Shoat Kutin. With me is Professor Kriengsak, Chareonwongsak, a academic as the founder of the Institute of Future Studies for Development. I want to come to the question of some of the policies that we see operating, or at least reported in the press, with regard to the current administration in Thailand. You yourself are a businessman. I understand you're a chairman of success groups. I believe there's been some pushback on the Prime Minister's decisions on some of these initiatives. He's been forced to negotiate a better deal for Thailand, for instance. What's your sense of China's investments in the country? Is that good for development in Thailand?
Any investment will give us extra money to push development further than what we already have in our own internal resource. But the sharing of the benefits will vary according to the way you negotiate, the ground rules you set. But if you don't know how to win-win in our position with China, then basically the Chinese could win a lot more. But I'm not an anti-investors kind of person. I think investment is always welcome, and we are thankful that overseas investment are coming. But Chinese has such a dominant role that if you do not know how to handle this kind of country, which is very powerful, you will tend to find grievances along the way a bit with the people. So I would say, yes, we need to let them in. Yes, we need to allow free investment. But we need to be wiser and more prudent in how we handle without doing it so artificially difficult that no one will come in.
The current Prime Minister, Prayut Chan-o-cha, because he's a military man, he might not have been trained to deal with issues of, economic strategy and such. But is he well advised? Does the government of Thailand today have the kind of advisors who have the wherewithal to negotiate tough with the Chinese in terms of investments?
I think he must have some people who can advise him. I noticed some of the names around him. So they must be quite intelligent enough to be able to brief him properly. But he's in a very difficult situation. He is a government that comes from a coup. Therefore, the West traditionally are not very happy with a coup installed government. When you yourself was a coup leader and they become prime minister, they're even worse. And therefore, you have not much choice. With Trump, he's a bit more pragmatic. Therefore, he's giving allowance for Prayut because the Chinese and the American has to compete for influence. And therefore, you have some elbow room for your capability to maneuver. So Prayut have used that. But again, China is so near and so powerful and a rising power. Therefore, you can't escape the Chinese influence. Therefore, Prayut fell into the hand of the Chinese a lot more than most people feel comfortable. It seems like he is controlled fully by the situation and he could not back off. He needs the Chinese badly. Therefore, we have to backward bending, pleasing the Chinese to make sure that he survives internationally.
Is this playing well with the Thai populace? Are they happy with what they see happening?
The Thai people, the large pockets of them, are not thinking carefully. And therefore, they don't mind as long as you give them the benefits that they can tangibly see. Meanwhile, they see the Chinese everywhere in tourism, in various investment that are coming in. So, in a way, they don't mind because they see the tangible benefits that come in quickly. But some corners of the Thais may be a bit reserved and say, well, you have to be careful. But this is the situation, and they quite easily move forward if you give them enough perceptive understandings of the benefits. They will not resist the government too much. So Prayut has a free hands in a way because the public are not yelling or shouting. They say, well, do whatever is best so that the money comes into their pockets so that they can survive. And there's a lot of people in the rural area with a traditional political base for former parties. These are the more crucial people who can either dictate the term of winning election, and they are suffering. I mean, they're suffering, therefore, not attributable to the Chinese, but attributable to the failure of the policies that done by the government. Therefore, there's a lot of unhappiness going on because the money is not flowing into the people who are poor in the rural area, and they are suffering badly. So that a lot of noise is being made bit by bit to the government, not to the foreign elements of any kind.
Now, Thailand, of course, was one of the founding members of ASEAN, the regional grouping. Do you see, in your personal point of view, that ASEAN will provide a kind of ballast to negotiate, with a rising China? Or is there a vehicle that's inadequate?
I like ASEAN to be a good vehicle. It's only useful for almost all of the ASEAN members. I would say everyone will benefit from ASEAN being stronger. Maybe Indonesia don't need ASEAN as much as the rest. The 9 members, I'm certain, it will be very strong benefits that come forward if they become a more solid ASEAN. Now I'm very afraid that ASEAN is turning into a facade of an organization that can really help, but it's not very strong. It's a paper tiger. I'm afraid that ASEAN are not going the way I would like it to go. I want it to be stronger, more unified, more integrated, so that we can have a bargaining power together as a grouping to bargain against the superpower outside, including China, the great power in the region. And we're not going to withstand Chinese if we don't know how to group together. And now the Chinese are moving into various countries in ASEAN to give them individual benefits in such a way that make the ASEAN collective body not strong enough to be able to bargain for the collective benefits. I'm worried. And therefore, in the end, I'm guessing if we're moving this direction, the Chinese would break up ASEAN de facto and allow ASEAN to be on paper only. And then they will start moving with different ASEAN members and eroded ASEAN collectiveness bit by bit.
What, from your point of view, are the major regional issues for Thailand?
I would say Thailand has a second largest economy in the whole ASEAN and the biggest economy in the mainland ASEAN, and has such a huge connection with the various ASEAN countries. Our borders are the longest in collectiveness compared to any other ASEAN countries. We are most connected. And we are very centrally located. Basically, the Mekong sub-region is closely connected with Thailand, and we're connected to the Malaysian, the Singaporean, the Indonesian, further on, the archipelago of Philippines. So I think Thailand has an important role to play if we know how to play it properly. It will be for win-win benefits for ASEAN and Thailand. Therefore, we need to create a healthy atmosphere of working together, and Thailand could to lead in a way together with, say, Malaysia. We could help to unify ASEAN a lot more aggressively rather than allow it to just move slowly like with the way it is. The border demarcation lines are still unclear in many ASEAN regions. How could we find a win-win approach where we don't concentrate on the conflicts and on the difficulties of drawing the line and find the mutual benefits for all and leave it for the 100 years in the future to decide what to do? I think I tend to go that route, that let's find a peaceful solution, find a win-win solution. And Thailand would like to play that role, I hope. And I'm wishing, and it's in our nature to be friendly anyway, peaceful. Therefore, Thailand could do so, and we could make it easy. I'm hoping for the South, the Deep South, the three strongly dominated by the Muslim South, would be able to see the benefits of integrating with the rest of Thailand properly so that we all win. Peace is always something useful. I'm appealing to all that. Why fight? Why waste the time? Why do all the silly things? Let's talk and let's find ways. And if we can do that successfully, Thailand could be such an integrating force for ASEAN, and it will benefit the whole ASEAN while we're still strong enough to do so.
Very quickly, are you optimistic about the future?
I am semi-optimistic because there's a lot of things going for it, a lot of things doing for Thailand. Just need the right kind of leadership to emerge. Immediately post-Prayut, but because he has some stigma in a way, unfortunately, attached to being a military coup-installed government and self-installed government. And that makes him a candidate which is not very helpful for Thailand. But I'm looking at him as a slowly evolving past. He is going away anytime soon, I guess. I hope the new leadership that emerge, if we are wise enough, will find the right kind of leaders that will be useful for Thailand, useful for the region, and will applaud by ASEAN and say, yeah, that's the right kind of people to come forward, and that will be very helpful for Thailand and the rest of ASEAN. Our future ties in together. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic for Thailand and optimistic for ASEAN if we do the right thing.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
I've been speaking to Professor Kriengsak, Chareonwongsak, an academic, as well as the founder of the Institute for Future Studies for Development. I'm Sharad Kutin, and this has been The Breakfast Grill on BFM89.9, the business station.
That episode of BFM Breakfast Grill was brought to you by U Mobile, where data hearts you.